Okay, I think we're live. Participants, let's see, 21, 22, 28, 34, 41, 43. Hello, everyone. Hello in wherever you are. This is so fun. This is so bizarre and different and exciting and new and all of these wonderful things. And so my name is Erik Lingvall. I'm the founder of Catapult Acting Studios. And I am so grateful to see, whoa, we're 148 now. We've got 148 of you watching or listening, watching and listening, doing whatever we do here on Zooming. We're all Zooming in. We are gonna have a really fun time today. And we're gonna hopefully, my goal today is to give some perspective and some insight to everyone watching and hopefully shine a little light in a time where it's a little wild, it's a little crazy, but I am first and foremost so grateful to be joined by this wonderful panel, and we're gonna get to know this wonderful panel here in a second. Just to let you guys know, our plan is every Thursday to be doing this, doing a free seminar of some sort until who knows when. Next week, we are going to be doing a free parent seminar where we're going to be bringing in one of my students who's a Disney star, his mom. We're going to be welcoming in a manager from LA who's going to be, who represents a lot of wonderful kids. And it's going to be a really cool thing. So our plan is to just keep everyone connected and keep the community thriving throughout this whole situation. We have a ton of virtual options for all of our clients out there. If you go to catapultacting.com and check out all the virtual options, including promotions we have. We're trying to give back whatever we can. We've got some ideas for some other really fun kind of interactive workshops. Spring break week, since a lot of people aren't going to be going anywhere, we've decided to do a full week of workshops where every one of our instructors is going to be instructing a $25 online virtual workshop. So we're doing everything we can, man, to keep this ball rolling and keep all of us going. And with that said, I would like to introduce our panel right now. Grace, you're gonna say hi to everyone. Grace, I'm gonna hide you for now, and then we're gonna go and we're gonna move forward. So let's start off with our panel. In my world right now, the first person next to me in our little boxes is a friend of mine who I have known for a very, very, very long time. And her name, wait, where did she go? There she, oh, there she is. Wait, you guys all just moved around. This is a learning experience. Maybe let's all mute unless you're talking right now. That way it will just focus on the person who ends up talking. However, as you're reaching down to grab something, J Pervis, you are my first person who I've known for such a wonderfully long time. And Joy is one of the most amazing, energetic human beings I've ever met, and one of the just so great at her job. And I'm so grateful to have you here, Joy. And if you want to just kind of tell people a little bit about who you are, and yeah.
Well, first of all, Erik, you know, you and I have known each other for probably at least 12 years, I think, wow. Right?
Yeah, I think
those Pro Scout days, you know.
Long time, man.
And I have to tell everybody that Erik, as much energy as he had back then, he has like even the same amount or double the energy here. So I love your energy, Erik. You're the best. So, and you're so positive, and I love that. But anyways, this is great. Thank you so much for doing this, for me being stuck in a house like everybody else, but for our community, for our actors, for everybody. So I really appreciate you doing this for everybody and staying so positive in such a time when everybody could be so negative. So thank you. But I'm J Pervis with the J Pervis Talent Agency, and been in this business for over 25 years. We represent kids, adults, we represent all ages, but in all capacities. But I love what I do. Been doing it for a long time in this market, and very fortunate to be in a market that's growing and so supportive and has such a tight community. So I'm excited to be here. Thanks.
Thank you, Joy. Thank you. Yes, I'm excited to have you. I will tell you this. I love so many wonderful industry pros out there. Everybody on our panel here, I've worked with before. They've come to our events before. They've come to Catapult. But you guys really are like a dream team. Not to negate all of the other wonderful industry pros out there. I love you all. But this group right here, I'm really unbelievably grateful to have you all. I just want to express that, and I'm just excited to see what transpires. Okay, next up on my little thing is someone who I have gotten to know really well more recently, and who I think she and I share some very similar mind types of things neurologically, and delving into the brain and why we do what we do, and so on and so forth. She does voiceover. She writes, directs, produces. She's an amazing human being. The next person I'd like to introduce is Caroline Slaughter.
Hey.
Hey.
Am I supposed to say anything specific about myself besides the fact that I do all those things?
You can introduce yourself however you would like to introduce yourself.
Okay. Well, I used to call myself a multi-hyphenate, but, and most of you guys listening are probably multi-hyphenates, but overall, I think I'm just a storyteller. I think that encompasses it all. And right now, what I'm working on, which I think is really fun, is I'm executive producing podcasts for School of Humans and iHeartMedia to be IP for TV and film. So I get to work with lots of different stories and use my voiceover and my writing and my directing in this one really cool capsule. And what I would say to you guys is, like, you can actually go into your closet and record stuff and create narrative now, which is super empowering. And I don't know, I guess I just ask all of you to figure out how to be better storytellers at this time. And it doesn't mean you have to create. It means you can read too. Just read a lot. But I just urge you all to be, discovering that part of yourself.
I love that. Yeah, I think during this time right now, it's obviously a wonderful opportunity to do whatever you can that is within an enclosed space. And part of that now, I believe, with all of the resources out there, and I think we'll talk a little bit about that today, but what a wonderful opportunity to just dive into all of the amazing resources that are out there to help you tell your stories, right? Yeah, I think it's such a wonderful thing. Well, speaking of storytellers, we've had certain actors who have graced our studio many times. This young man, he's been coming to Catapult since we started, and it has been so cool to watch someone who appreciates the craft so very much, who is all about putting in the work, who also just is one of just the nicest guys I've met, and who now is doing some amazing things. He is working in TV. He is doing the things that many Atlanta actors wish they were doing, and he is bringing it to fruition. And I'm gonna let him talk a little bit, but yeah, I'm just so stoked to have him here, and I'm also just so stoked for everything that's been happening. I'd like to introduce to you Anthony Dalton.
Hey, everybody. Anthony Dalton. Currently, I am a series regular on Tyler Perry's new hit show, Sisters, on BET. Been coming to Catapult, like Erik said, for so long, to tape auditions, some of them which I've booked, which I've been blessed to book. Most of them I didn't, but it wasn't through the fault of Catapult. It's just the powers that be. I moved here in 2010 from Indianapolis, Indiana, with $400 in my pocket and an old 97 Oldsmobile Aurora. And I've seen Atlanta grow to this huge entertainment market, and it's just been a blessing. Even when I was doing bit parts and stuff. I've just seen the growth, not only in myself, but fellow actors, talent agencies, like Catapult, all these great things that are happening in the city. And I'm just blessed to be a part of it. And I thank you, Erik, for inviting me to this panel with such amazing people.
Well, it's my pleasure, man. Yeah, I everything you said, and I just love that. I love that you came here and you just basically, you had your craft, you had your heart, you had your drive, and I think it is paying off, and I think it will continue to. And yeah, man, I thank you for being here. So let's see. So next, if we go around, my little mosaic keeps shifting. My mosaic of these wonderful industry pros has shifted again. So next up, a wonderful person who I probably of the panel here, I know the least, but through all of the people that I have worked with, including Carol Kaboya, I've gotten to know better, and we have brought this wonderful gentleman in. I'll call him a young man too, right? If Anthony Dalton can be a young man, so can Bajo. So yeah, next up, I'd like to introduce to you guys someone who is, when we have certain industry pros, when we bring them in and they'll give feedback and direction and insight to our actors, and you can feel the love they have for this craft of acting. And I like to say, you know, sometimes you get casting directors who really feel like the actor's casting director. And I love those types of people. And so with that said, I'd like to introduce to you, Bajo. Hello, friend.
Let me unmute this. Hi, thanks so much for inviting me here, Erik. I'm glad I could be on this panel with such talented and wonderful people. This is interesting because, first of all, I just want to say I hope everyone is staying safe and healthy, and most importantly, sane in these really crazy times. You know, I hope that by the end of this, people walk away with something, a little piece of energy that can move them forward and help sustain them throughout the rest of however long this thing might last. But yeah, so as Erik said, I'm a casting director, a local casting director here in Atlanta. And I've been doing this for almost 10 years now, casting in general. I started out as an assistant and then became a casting director. So yeah, I'm just ready to jump into this, and we'll see what we have to offer you guys. But most importantly, I'm very interested to see what the community as a whole has to offer each other. So I look forward to this.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah, I love that. Like, just give a little bit of energy, a little bit of light to anyone. I think these days, a little bit goes a long way. I mean, I know that's kind of a cliche saying, but anything that somebody can say or do to move us forward is a wonderful thing in this time. So next we have, actually, you are the person who I have most recently met, but we did get to spend quite a bit of time together. I think we sat down and met for like 2 or 3 hours, and it probably could have been for about 8 hours. A lovely, wonderful human being who was referred to me by one of the other panelists. I believe it was Caroline Slaughter who connected us. And we are really privileged to have you here. You bring such a wealth of perspectives in this industry, and I'm just very excited to have you. So Sara Elizabeth, tell us a little bit about who you are.
Thanks. No, it's an honor to be on this panel, and wish I could see all of the, I'm sure, shining faces in your isolation that are on the other side of the screen. I am a film producer, and I also consult with filmmakers. I've been producing for 20 years plus, and about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I started my own company, Life Out Loud Films, specifically to create inspiring content and to also champion women in front of and behind the camera. I've only been in Atlanta for I guess going on 2 years. Was out in LA for a long time in Virginia. So newer to this community, and mostly work in narrative films. I've worked with everyone from Chris Cooper to Jane Seymour to Ellen Burstyn, and most recently had the privilege of field producing McMillions, which some of you may have had a chance to watch while you're in quarantine on HBO. But yeah, that's me right now. We have probably 6 to 8 projects that are in active development. And I will tell you, Erik, I feel like I'm busier. Like I've been nonstop on phone calls all day. So development is absolutely full speed ahead out to directors and talent. So nothing is slowing down on the development side, that's for sure.
Well, that's great to hear. I'm sure a lot of people would love to hear that. You know, there are a lot of things we can do virtually. I mean, if there's one thing the Atlanta market's learned, it's that you can do a lot of creating in a tiny room with a reader and a camera and a script. And in fact, sometimes what happens in there, literally the next step is you on a multi-million-dollar set saying those same lines. And so, you know, it's, we're going to make this work. We're just going to make this work, and it's working for you. And I know it's working. It's just, we're just going to do it. I was telling the panelists earlier, I had this thing, I've been trying to run 7 miles a day and whatever, you know, it's kind of crazy. And then today I was like, oh, I don't have time to do it. And I was like, just run faster. Then you do it. Then it's done. It's like, oh, there's the solution. Run faster. And it's just, I feel like I tell my students this all the time. If you were to ask any of them, how do I feel about excuses? And they go, there's 2 types of people. Those who make excuses or those who find solutions. And look, you know, you find solutions, whatever it might be. And so we're going to find solutions. And I love hearing that, Sara Elizabeth. And we'll talk a little bit more about the industry and where it's kind of moving to currently and what's going to happen. Last, but definitely not least, I would say collectively, the number of minutes I've spent talking to, maybe more than anyone outside of like my closest friends and immediate family. We have spent many of hours talking about the industry and life and business and all kinds of weird, wacky, woo-woo stuff. And I admire you so very much in such a wide variety of capacities. I also love that you introduced me to a man named Richard Warner, who is one of the most amazing humans I've met. And I really am just so grateful for our friendship, for your mentorship, for your insight, and most recently, that you're on this panel. So I would like to introduce to you guys my friend Erika. Erika Arvold, tell us a little bit about who you are.
Oh, that was so nice. Thanks, Erik. I'm thrilled and so excited to see all these amazing faces who I talk to all the time on this panel. So that's really fun and some wonderful, I'm just looking at the participants and like looking down the list, and there are so many people that I know that are listening. So that just makes me thrilled and excited. And I think this is case in point. What do we do when we are in this business of film and television? What do? We work under crazy stress. We work crazy hours. We are anticipating curveballs and dealing with curveballs that were not anticipated. And we still get the shot, and we still get done somehow within budget or close to it, hopefully. And we're built for this. We artists together are built for this, probably more so than most other industries. And case in point, we're all here together with what, 250. We just hit 250. Oh, now 249. Who held up? But anyway, I just think that's amazing. And the gathering of artists gives us, you know, energy and connection, and self-taping proves that that's possible. You're absolutely right, Erik. And I'm just here to really receive and give some energy that sustains us through the next unknown time period. I don't know, my brain thinks in 3-month increments. That's just how I do it. So, you know, all day today, I've been working away. What does the next, what does the next 3 months look like? I'm an accidental CEO. I started a company on the East Coast in 2010. We are a casting company, a production company, and an education company. But my very first job in the industry as a casting intern was for a movie called Backdraft way back in 1991. And so you can add up the years if you dare. But I just am so lucky to have worked in, really casting is my anchor and that's my foundation, but I have always been curious about other jobs and titles, and I worked in locations and I worked in costume department, and I just, I'm teaching myself Premiere right now. Like, I can't stop learning. And I think what a gorgeous time to continue that right now. What an amazing opportunity to collectively better ourselves.
I love that concept right there of collectively bettering ourselves. I think collectively is such an important thing, right? I mean, if there was ever a community that I truly felt like I was a part of something, it's this film community. In particular in the Southeast, it's really interesting because like, what was the Atlanta, Too Busy to Hate, right? That was kind of the thing for a while with Atlanta. But there is something about the camaraderie we have here. And it's really special. And I think that's why this TV film community, my primary purpose for this forum is to be a shining light and an example that others can look at and go, oh, they're making it work. Not only are they making it work, but man, they're innovating. They're coming up with some things that are actually better than they were prior to this situation we're in. And I think collectively, if we can do that, oh man, I mean, the sky's the limit or beyond. And so, especially if you're Elon Musk, the sky is not the limit. Space is happening. And so I think that there are so many opportunities here. I always like to say to my actors, within every challenge, there is an opportunity for growth, and there are gifts that lie in there. You just need to be open to seeing them and receiving them. And so my hope is that we are able to do that. And I will tell you, even from a brass tacks logistical perspective, our online classes, I was telling the panelists this earlier, we had a class last night with 18 students, and I honestly believe it was one of the best classes I've ever been a part of. Not just virtually, but one of the best classes. There are elements to this virtual thing where it's a little more intimate. We can dive in a little deeper. We're all here condensed together, and there's something about that that's kind of cool, and so yeah, I'm just excited about that. I'm excited about everything. And with that said, we got back over 250, Erica, just so you know, we're 257 now. Yeah. So we have a lot of really wonderful questions that are out there, and to let all of the participants know, if you have any questions, we have a list of questions we're going to be going through. But if you click on the Q&A, you can type in a question, and we will be screening all of those questions. So if you've got a question right now, and you're like, hey, I'm really curious about this, maybe it's relevant to one specific person, whatever it might be, we can answer that for you. And then we also have the chat option. The chat option is just if you want to say hi or spread some light or put some fun emoji thing or whatever. And so we have the little chat option down there too. So with that said, I'm gonna fire off this first question. It happens to be from someone that we both know, Erica. His name is Richard Warner. And so I thought it would be cool. For those of you who don't know Richard Warner, you should get to know him somehow in your life if you can. I like to say Richard Warner is, if you took the word actor and you created a human out of the word actor, that's who Richard Warner is. He is just the embodiment. And he is such a wonderful person. And he also had the longest conversation I've ever seen my daughter Venice have with a human being. That was a legitimate conversation that was so fun to watch. And he's just such a wonderful listener and person. So Richard's question is this: do you think there will be significant changes in how we audition, cast, produce, create film and TV when things subside and we all return to rebuilding our careers? Now, I think from his perspective, it might be from an actor's perspective, but what are your guys' thoughts on this? Like, what do you think and now obviously we're all just kind of guessing, but we're in the trenches, you know, I mean, we're in the midst of this, right? We're having to figure out how to navigate the industry with this. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Would anybody like to start it off, kick it off? Okay, Erica, yes, go ahead.
I'm coming at this really fresh because my kid, who's a teenager, is online schooling like many, many, many people, and pretty much probably every teenager right now. And they are finding that online school is better. They are lacking social anxiety. They are participating more. They understand more. There is clarity with both written documents and online, and the tools that it's amazingly positive, the reaction. Now, my kid is, you know, an introvert, so certainly there's some online stuff that probably won't work for others, but I think we will discover as an industry other ways of creating collaboratively during this process that then will be applied to the future. Maybe more streamlined, maybe, I mean, I know so many writers with writers' rooms right now, they're bonkers. There's so many things being developed and writers are writing like crazy, all in writers' rooms right now, like this. And who knew that that was possible? You know, who like so many writers' rooms were in person. And I don't think, you know, I mean, who knows what the future holds? No one knows what the future holds, especially me. But I do think that we're going to have additional tools through this that we can then apply. And I think that's a wonderful opportunity.
Yeah, I think it's sort of like pressure, right? Pressure pushes that thing together and you've got no choice but for something to come out of it. I think it's one of the beautiful things, right? I always like to use the metaphor of a muscle. It has to tear to grow. I mean, literally, you tear your muscle in order to grow. For those of you that have been to Catapult before, our stairs, when you walk upstairs, it literally says, life begins at the end of your comfort zone, so it's time to start getting comfortable being uncomfortable. That's a Neil Donald Walsh quote, adding some Erik Lingvall at the end of it. Well, we are getting out of our comfort zone and things are happening, and I think it is an opportunity to do something. Some other thoughts? Anybody have some other thoughts on that? Yes, Caroline, go ahead.
I think too that we're spotlighting a lot of systems that are broken right now. Specifically, we're looking at the economy and the news right now, but I think we'll also look at our system, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday with this group, and the idea of shared power, which is something in our industry that's not there because there's a hierarchy. Casting directors have to cast you, agents have to get you in a room. And I, like being someone who's been sort of created a lot of my own opportunities, I really want actors to take the power back. And I think Anthony could speak more to that. But I was redefining it this morning to myself, and I want you all to think about redefining what success means to you. Like, success for me, I can't write right now. Like, I'll be totally honest, like, I can't tap into that creative space that I usually am able to channel from because there's such this anxiety and fear around the conscious collective. It's really hard. So for me, success today was like going on a hike and actually like hitting 4 miles, not 7, but 4. And it just like, that was success today. So I feel like redefining success in our industry is really important as we rebuild after it burns down, if that makes sense.
Yes, yeah, 100% makes sense. And I love that perspective, and power, I think, is something with actors, and I'm going to swing it over to you, Anthony, next. But I do, as somebody who's a coach who sees so many actors come in, this is a wonderful opportunity to say, okay, well, how can I sort of reframe, I guess might be a good word, reframe this system, right? We were talking about this yesterday. None of us exist without the actor. The actor is the one thing that connects us all, the actor. And that's kind of interesting, right? So like, if you are the actor, if one of, I know a lot of you are, these participants, think about that for a second. It's because of you that we are all here on this screen. And if you just stop for a minute as an actor and go, oh yeah, all right, cool, man. It's because of me. I think there's something neat about that. You know, it's like the actor, without the actor, none of us have a job. So I love that perspective. Anthony, I'm gonna have you kind of touch on that with what Caroline was saying. There is a specific question for you that I think is a great one, which is just what's your process and how has it kind of adapted? I like that question because I think a lot of actors don't have a plan or a process at all. And this is from Isoken Abaseki. Isoken Abaseki. Hopefully I got that name kind of right. That's who asked that question. But they're wondering kind of what your process was for your current role. And yeah, so if you want to give, you are the actor's perspective here on our panel.
Well, my process per se is just to get around individuals that are constantly doing stuff that they're writing their own projects. I have a friend named Justin Pogue. We've shot a bunch of things together. He's like my Ryan Coogler, how Michael B. Jordan and Ryan Coogler. And honestly, he has actually helped me in times when I wasn't booking because I was still exercising that muscle. So if I'm doing an independent project and then I happen to go to Catapult and put myself on tape and I book, I've already been working on something going into this project, which I'm actually getting paid for. And when I'm not working, we'll go hammer out stuff, write something. We just did a DC fan film based on the character Zatanna. And it's going like crazy. Like people from the DC network have actually seen it, or the comic book have actually seen it, and it's getting a lot of praise. But it's always about staying busy. I think with this whole situation, a lot of people are distraught, and ask yourself, why are you distraught? Are you distraught because your agent isn't calling you because there's no jobs? Or are you distraught because you're not getting in any rooms? You don't have to be in a room to be an actor. You act. Just because you're not in the NBA and you play basketball, you're gonna wait. You're not gonna say you're a hooper because I'm not in the NBA, because that's 1%. There's a lot of great basketball players. If you play basketball, you play basketball. If you're an actor, you act and you find ways to do your craft. I'm not gonna wait around for my agent to get me something to tell me, oh, now it's your time to act. You can do what you do now. Because I tell you, when this thing subsides, hopefully soon, Hollywood does not care. Like it, and I think we all can speak for it. Yes, we all sympathetic about what's going on, but it's a business. And you still have to cast the right people for the job. And as soon as this subsides and you get to go in those rooms, what have you been doing during this break that, they're not going to be like, oh yeah, I know there was a pandemic and everything, so we'll give you some slack. No, this is a multi-billion-dollar business and they want the right people for the job. So if you're not exercising that muscle, that's a problem. Like I said, if you're waiting to get into a room for someone to tell you can act,
I love that. Yeah, what a great response to that too, right? Because I think people think about the process and they think more from the perspective of, okay, I got an audition. What's my process for this audition? When in actuality, the process is the whole thing, right? It's like you're sharpening that thing all the time. It's this constant sharpening so that when you get thrown in, you're just doing what you've already been doing. And I think that's such a great way to look at it, man. Just like get out there and do it. Just go. It's the best slogan I think ever in history. And until one comes that really blows me away, just do it. just do it. I don't just do it. Just get out there, do it. Well, I don't know, just do it, right? And then when you just do it, it's like when actors are like, well, I don't know, like what should, just do it, go, just do it, just go, just what should, just anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when you think about it like that, I think it's great.
And I have a lot of sports analogies. I come from a sports background, but it's like those basketball players who practice free throws all the time. They're in the gym. Nobody's around. They're perfect. Now you put 50,000 people in the arena. What are you going to do? You should be doing the exact thing that you did when there was nobody in the room. Now, you can't wait till 50,000 people are in the room for you to turn it on. No, you have to keep working that muscle all the time, because when those opportunities come, I always tell people, there's a lot of ways to get into a house. There's the chimney, there's the doggy door, there's the window. What are you going to do once you get in that room? Because I don't know, sometimes nepotism plays a lot in our field. You know, you get in because you know somebody, but at the same time, it's like, okay, you're here now. What are you going to do? And if you cannot step up to the plate, you just, pardon my French, you just pissed away an opportunity.
I think we're allowed to say piss because we're
okay.
we're online.
There might be some church people on here. My mom might be on here. I don't know.
I think my aunt is on here.
Oh,
Auntie Nini, if you're there, who's one of the most amazing humans in the world. If any of my family's there, comment or something. I know she said she was going to be on there. She lives in Colorado, and she's amazing. Okay, cool. I like that. Here's one I really like. I like this question because I think it's probably what. Okay, let's see here from Grace. Here we go. What are some of your favorite things to do right now to keep your spirits up, or some things that are making you happy and stay positive in a time when we are missing out a lot of stuff? And I like that. That's from Nadia Alicia. Anyone who would like to go? Yeah, Sara Elizabeth.
For me, I would say two things just on the happy, feel good kind of perspective. For me, it's my mindfulness practice. I feel so often we are go, go, go and don't have time even to practice, as an actor to really dig in. And now we have this gift of as much time as we want. So being able to work on yourself and get quiet and actually listen less to everything that's coming at me, because if I really absorb everything that's coming in through social and through the news, I think we'll all go crazy. But actually taking the time to stop and to be quiet and mindful and have me time and work on it has been probably the biggest gift, and what's really enabled me to stay sane. And I always feel much better after doing that. And of course, getting outside as well. But I think we've got to trust ourselves a lot more in this process and stop looking to other people to fill those voids and go in and give ourselves what we personally need, which is going to be different for every individual.
Sure. Yeah. I know for me personally, I have exercised more over the last 7 days than I have, I think, any 7-day stretch ever. It is an insane amount of exercise, and I've been able to find a way to make it work. I also, every single class I've taught, one or both of my little girls have joined me at some point on my lap, in the background, climbing around. And so I think that's been a really fun thing for me, to keep my spirits up. Also, I think there's some wonderful perspectives you can get. I'd highly recommend a podcast by a guy named Tim Ferriss, who brought a guy on named Jack Cornfield. He is a wonderful, wonderful, amazing human being. And I would highly recommend that. I would recommend what has helped me out a lot in this time, outside of exercise, meditation, reconnecting with friends. That's another fun thing. Start FaceTiming people. We FaceTimed my aunt, who I was telling you about the other day, for like 45 minutes. We reached out to my cousin. We have, just find things that you can do that you haven't done, And now that you have the time to do it, why not? So that to me, does anybody else have anything in particular that you've found to be fun? Or
I can clean my house.
clean your house.
I'm not kidding. I travel a lot, like a lot. And this time in my house where I can organize cupboards or vacuum or clean, it is mindful in so many ways, and it feels like I'm doing something, and it is physical, and I don't know, I think that is amazing. I'm going to start cleaning my house more.
I love it. Anyone else? Any other things? No? Okay, cool. Oh, Anthony, go ahead.
Well, just I was on my Instagram live yesterday, and I was telling people this whole pandemic thing is going to force us to look at things that we have been taking for granted. A lot of things that we've taken for granted, even our significant others, our family. Like you said, me and my girlfriend, we just put together a piece of gym equipment. And as small as that it seems, it was like we were bonding, you know, because she's on the go, I'm on the go. And so now we're stuck together. You know what I'm saying? So just appreciating the little things, like even going to a grocery store. Like I know yesterday I'm complaining about I'm stuck inside. It's a beautiful day. It's Atlanta. You know, I don't think we're going to get any real cold anymore. And it's like, I'm here in my apartment where I should be out, you know, preparing for the weekend or whatever. But when this thing subsides, you're going to look at people really taking advantage of little things, like, you know, quote unquote, stopping to smell the roses, like almost figuratively and literally, because you've been quarantined, quote unquote. So that, and it's just going to force people to really be creative, like you, with avenues like this. And, you know, you said something about a podcast. People can start their own podcast. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. FYI, Erica, your thing about cleaning has gone semi-gangbusters on here, and everyone talking about how much they love cleaning and how meditative
it's a renaissance of cleaning.
People can come over to my house tomorrow.
No, yeah, you can come to my house. We have toys just constantly available for you to pick up. Yeah.
Well, there is something about that, you know, exterior disorder. There's a whole beautiful conceptual and, you know, spiritual side of ordering your house. So I'm talking, I mean, yes, I'm cleaning too, but I'm really talking about organizing maybe more than anything, and things and projects that I haven't gotten to in years, and they're, you know, in that cupboard and whatnot. And it's so nice to either make a decision, clean it out, whatever, but it's great. And in doing this with the family, I mean, that's what's really nice too. We're all making decisions together. I love that, putting something together, like, you know, what Anthony just said with his girlfriend, like that's what the cleaning is too, to me.
Yeah.
And I would say one thing really quickly too. Everyone's talking about the morning routine and how, you know, and it's true. It's like having morning routine even during this time is so important. But I look at ritual too. So like one of my rituals is taking an Epsom salt bath, because like during this time the Epsom salts really help. And what I've been doing in the bath is like making playlists, like, because music speaks to me now. And like, what's the playlist that, what do I feel like today? What does that playlist feel like? So I can remember this time, because we're never going to live through this again, guys. And there's something like that's sort of magical about that, because this is the one time in history that we can record how exactly we're feeling. So feel all the feelings and observe all the things.
I love that.
Yeah.
Sara Elizabeth, oh, go ahead, Joy. Yeah.
Now, to say for me, you know, it's been great because you know, we live in such a fast-paced, you know, world, and when everything came to just literally a stop, you know, it's, for me, it's given me a chance to connect with people that I've neglected to call, to talk to have conversations with, and, you know, because you have more time to do that. And so that's been one of the joys that I have found out of that, is to take the time and connect with the people who I have not been able to do so in the past.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Was somebody going to say something?
No, go ahead.
Bajo.
Yeah, there's not much more to add except my own personal thing has been, I haven't ridden a bike in a very long time. And I have a toddler, a 2-year-old, and I got one of those little wagon hitches on it. So I've become my son's personal little tut-tut driver now. He loves driving around. So that has been great in terms of doing that. Also, because we're taking so much advantage of these online forums, if anyone has not been hip to it yet, you really should hop on DJ D Nice's Instagram. The man is playing some tunes while you're cleaning. You might even want to do that too. He's not the only one, but it's probably one of the most popular ones right now. Some friends of mine told me about it, and I'm not a huge social media person, and so I had to have my wife show me how to log on to Instagram Live to do it, and it was fun though. So just a little shout out for that.
What you said, I think is really interesting, is kids, like spending time with kids right now. I don't have kids, but my nieces, I'm Skyping and doing yoga and having conversations, and they're just bring such a, they don't know what's going on, and they still are so innocent, and the natural joy that they bring, I find anytime I have any kind of interaction with them, I am suddenly lifted. So I think kids, and to your point, joy, it's interesting, right? As actors, we should be observing more than we probably do or have time to do, but what a character study of so many personalities being stuck in the house with family or significant others, like observe, because that's stuff you can use in writing and your acting.
Yeah. No, it's so true. And to touch on that with Bajo too, with kids, it is, yeah, if you can find a way to get little kids in your life, even if it's via FaceTime or whatever, they have been, yeah, it's been one of the coolest parts is being around them all the time and really getting to be a part of their life a lot more.
Can I quickly say too, just need to add while you're on this, kids, since some of you guys are talented as actors, singers, or whatever, I can assure you there are parents out there who need you to make videos, read stories. Like if you just want something that you need to do to put out there, reach out to your nieces and nephews and things like that. Make little videos of you just reading a story to them or singing a song. It's been great for us, because my son is no longer in his daycare, but his teachers have stayed in touch with us, and we have, pictures of them sending out suggestions. Hey, go outside and paint today, that kind of thing. But in this time, you're stuck, but you can still touch people. So use your talents to do that, if anything else.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, everything with Italy, with everyone singing on their balconies and playing instruments. A guy ran a marathon, I was telling the panelists, on his balcony. He ran a full marathon over the course of about 6 hours. He's got a 7-meter balcony. I ran a 5K up and down my stairs the other night in my house. I got to watch a little concert on Instagram Live from one of my favorite bands. And that's one of the cool things about this too, is that while we are literally disconnected, like we're from a physical place, there is an intimacy that you get where it's like, that's one of the things I dig about Instagram Live is they're playing this thing and you kind of feel like it's just you and them. It's like suddenly you and an artist you love, who the last time you saw him, there was 30,000 people there. It's just you and them. And they're just on their guitar jamming out. And you're like, this is kind of awesome right here, right? Yeah, I think there is something about it. There's something about the connection of virtual that can actually dive deeper in ways than we do in person. There's elements to it that I'm really learning. I learned that in my class last night. And so I think if you open yourself to it, it is going to be there. This is sort of an interesting question that somebody had. Do you guys think that through this, and we can kind of focus on maybe Erica, Joy, Bajo, through this process of everyone doing lots of Zooms and what have you, we're all going to learn about these systems a lot more. We're going to play with them a lot more. Do you guys see this potentially shifting or creating sort of a new avenue for taped auditions where, in essence, a casting director, it's sort of like a hybrid between a taped audition and an in-person audition, where they were utilizing a forum like this, where they could just go, okay, let's see what you got. And somebody could just start and they could do their read and you could almost pause them, go to somebody else. You know what I mean? From like a casting director perspective.
Let me actually pop in. Before this happened, I am trying to find a new space to move in. And so I'd been offering Zoom and Hangouts and FaceTime like audition tech already. Like that's what I'd been doing with quite a few people, just because things were moving so quickly. And I was like, I missed the live interaction, but I didn't have a physical space to host anyone at the time. So I just started offering that. And I personally have enjoyed it. It's a mixed bag because it all depends on the level of technology. Not everyone has the bandwidth that allows for seamless reading, but for the most part, and especially on platforms like Zoom, which can capitalize on even on low bandwidth, it's worked out pretty well for me. And self-tape was always going to be there. This ultimately, this is still a good way to do initial pre-reads and things like that. But I think for the most part, it may change, but for the most part, when you get to a certain level, people will want to eventually bring you into the room with a director or a producer. But this is definitely going to be a tool that I think a lot of people are going to be using more.
Yeah, Bajo, I agree. And like you said, because I have shows all over the East Coast, essentially, and I cast from Toronto, which this last show I did a huge Toronto search, which is crazy to think that all the way down through Florida and over to New Orleans. So I travel a lot of different places, and sometimes I'll need to all of a sudden put someone in New Orleans on, give them some direction for a callback, or they, for whatever reason, and I will just FaceTime or Zoom or whatever and give them direction while they are at their own taping studio or a self-tape studio or whatever. And that's been happening, I'd say, honestly, it's probably ramped up in the last 2 years so much. And I'm old school. I want someone in the room. Like that's my most favorite thing, because there's just such a vibe and a connection and all sorts of things. But with the way that the industry is so homogenized, but in a cool way, like everyone has access to projects, right? Oh, it's shooting in Kentucky. Okay, where am I going to be? You know what I mean? And so everyone has this access to everything now. It's not just Atlanta or just Virginia or just Richmond or just, we're looking always for every role, pretty much, a lot of different places. And the connection I've made via Zoom, sometimes we have a connection after the role. And then what's so fun, because I always go to set, because I'm also, obsessed with going to set. So I always go to set on every show I work on. And sometimes when I see those actors afterwards, they're like, it's so weird. We feel like we know each other so well after Zooming. And it's like a big hello and a big hug, and it's so exciting. And then we have to actually clarify, wait, we haven't met in person, have we, before? So maybe it's blurring that line in some way. I think it's great, but it will absolutely continue in my, I can't imagine, even if the pandemic did not happen, I can imagine that it would have just continued.
Yeah, this almost kickstarted it, right? I mean, the pandemic said, okay, we're forced to use this system. Everybody's going to learn this system, and that could have an interesting effect, right, on the industry. Question, and this could kind of be to everyone. Somebody they asked if what they were seeing happening with current castings, as far as from the agency casting director perspective or the actor perspective. You're seeing any auditions coming in, or like what people are talking about from a production side. Obviously everything is halted now, but where it's going to move forward, if you guys have any insight there. One person, kind of to piggyback on that, kind of joked about all the roles that got cast, does this mean they're going to be open again to new actors? I don't know about that, but any insight that you guys have on any of that, just sort of like your perspective on what you're hearing from your end?
All right, I'll dive in. If no one else is
Bajo,
talking.
I think you're muted.
Oh,
You
go.
know?
Go ahead, Bajo. Go ahead.
Oh, no. Well, I wanted to answer the last question, which is, if the role's already been cast, that belongs to the actor. So sorry, it doesn't get back in the pool again, unless dates don't work out for some reason or anything like that. The person's still gonna get paid because they were cast, but other than that, the role is still theirs. So.
How about, just as a whole, or Joy, Erica, or whoever, Sara Elizabeth, Caroline, Anthony?
Well, obviously we're still on breakdowns every day, looking, to see if anything's coming through. But everything's at a standstill right now. There's a couple little things that are trickling in. The one area that we're actually doing some bookings in is the voiceover department. I don't do voiceovers. J Pervis, my daughter-in-law, handles that, but she's actually booking some voiceover jobs, from our clients who have, our talent who have, voiceover equipment at home. So she's doing that. But interesting enough too, she's had some castings for some industrials, and they're auditioning everybody, from their home, obviously. But they're also, she was telling me today that she had one client that was actually going to audition the actors from their house, and then cast them and have them shoot their own segment from their house and use them and pay them. So they didn't even have to leave their house in order to book that, industrial. Now, obviously it's just an industrial. It's not like television or film, but that is a little bit of movement going on during this dry season, this dry time. But yeah, I personally think that once we see that things are going to be lifted, once we see that light at the end of the tunnel, I'm hoping that the breakdowns are going to start coming in and casting, and you guys can speak for yourself, but I feel like casting is going to want to get a head start and start looking at people and getting things moving. So when everything's greenlit, they're ahead of the ball game.
I will say, being a voiceover, yes, there are lots more. There are auditions for us, at least one a day. So if you guys can try to get into your voiceover division now as actors, that would be ideal. Also, I also would suggest creating some sort of demo if you can, and you can do this on your. I'm actually, Erik, what I'll do is I'm putting together a blog about this, and I've talked to the lead cast actor at Pandora. I've talked to a guy who does lots of industrials, and I've gotten all their feedback on demos, and also audiobook producers. I've gotten their thoughts on demos. So I'm putting together a big blog around this just to help the voiceover community. And I will share that with you, Erik, so you can share it with the community. So we can get everyone getting work during a time where it's hard to work.
Yeah, that sounds great. Okay, cool. Another question we have here. What are some specific things that actors can do online that you have found to be good resources for actors currently? Whether that be training videos, whether that be like acting coaches who are doing things online, in particular, maybe some things that are available now. I know I can say from Catapult's perspective, I haven't done a workshop that cost $25. I don't remember the last time I did a workshop for that low of a price point. So I know that from our studio perspective, we are going to be not giving away, but we're going to be offering a lot of different things at a very discounted price. So at catapultacting.com, obviously you can find a lot of stuff there. I'm a little biased because I own the company.
I know. Well, I'll chime in. Our education department is right there with you. We have so many opportunities. I mean, Richard and I teach a class on Saturday, and there's still room. because you can teach to more people now online. That's the other thing, which is really cool. But yeah, we have, I mean, literally we're in development for our programming online and hustling like crazy to make sure we provide enough opportunities for the demand that's out there right now, which is really fantastic. And yeah, you can at a greatly discounted price. So
Anyone else? Anthony.
Like you said, there's a lot of online classes, like you guys, Catapult, but there was, I told you all yesterday, Susan Batson, who, if anyone knows who Susan Batson is, she's Tom Cruise's acting coach. She's Jamie Foxx's acting coach. She used to be married to Tom Cruise.
Winslet.
Yeah.
Katie Holmes.
Katie Holmes. But she's offering classes online for like $20. And it's like, and I feel that as much as actors want to act, teachers want to teach. If you have a passion for something, and they understand that, a lot of people cannot work. So they can't afford right now those classes that are costing $100, $200, even $50. So, but they still want to teach because they want to get fed artistically as well. And they want to feed actors artistically. So I would say in this time, take advantage, because once again, when this thing lets up, those prices are going to be up again. And like I said, for someone like Susan Batson and you guys at Catapult to offer such great discounts, that's like a no-brainer. Like, there's no reason why you shouldn't take advantage of those. I know everyone's, I'm a big fan of watching films too. I'm a big fan of watching films, television shows, and just really doing research on the industry, because as you all know, this industry is always changing, it's always evolving, it's doing something, and you don't want to be left behind. So just to learn as much as you can.
Well, and to that point, it's not just acting. Maybe take your destiny into your own hands. And if you've ever thought about writing a script that you could star in, whether it be a short film or a feature or a doc, I mean, take classes on screenwriting. And, I know we do them on producing. And how can you expand, or in the voiceover stuff that Caroline's talking about, is how can you expand your skills beyond just the acting to create opportunity for yourself. So it's more of taking the driver's seat in your own career, because you have the time now to learn those skills.
Yeah, and to even piggyback on that, you're all entrepreneurs, you're all business people. So it's not just about working the specific muscle of craft. I mean, certainly you can assign yourself a self-tape every day and never even have to take a class. You can do all of this on your own. But learning an accounting program, understanding how, to run a business, et cetera. And I say this from literally 10 years of learning how to be a CEO, and the amount of classes and books and information that I have sought out and that came upon me is just incredible. That's like a lot of what Erik and I talk about a lot. And it's what a great opportunity right now to really be the business person in your craft.
Yeah, I think it is interesting, what you guys were saying. It is almost kind of a buyer's market right now. I mean, I guess not almost, it is a buyer's market, right? I mean, because currently people are trying to figure out things to do, and the access to things is immediate now. Everything's online. Everyone it's like this influx of resources, of education, of training. I mean, there's so many things, of creative elements. I mean, to be able to, you can watch concerts for free right now by the artists just on Instagram. You can get, there's, who was it? Josh Gag was, he was reading stories to kids, right? I mean, you can get Olaf to read a story to your kid, I mean, that's so cool, from Frozen. I mean, it's like, there's so many things that are happening right now that didn't exist and very well might not exist again. So I think from that, there really are a lot of good opportunities. But yeah, I am a firm believer of creating your own content. I tell my actors that all the time. And I think now is just a wonderful time to do it. One thing I would recommend, there's a thing called Celtics, which is just CELTX. It's a free script writing software, really easy to use. Start writing some scripts, you know, creating your own stuff, I think is a great way to go right now. So I've got a question here that it's fairly specific. Joy, do you think, and this is an interesting question, I think, do you think this downtime will make it more challenging, or do you think it might make it easier to get representation when we come out of this?
Well, I think when we come out of it, we're going to be very, very busy. And so, you know, what we're doing right now is we're utilizing this time to look at our roster, to help our actors up to speed, you know, connect with our actors who need updated materials, etc. And then, you know, our agency, we always look at new talent after pilot season every year anyways. And so we were in a really busy, very good pilot season until it came, you know, to a halt. And so we're just kind of like doing that a little bit earlier than we had planned on it. So we will be we're looking at where we have holes in our roster, what categories we need to fill. And so we're going to start looking at that. But I want to say something because, you know, the kind of actors that we, you know, pursue and, you know, and have on our roster, you know, Anthony, you demonstrate that, because everything that Anthony was talking about that he is doing now is really what he does on a regular basis. He's just like stuck in his four walls doing it. You know, he's, you know, being creative, he's staying active, he's doing all these things as an actor, you know, should be doing on a regular basis. And, you know, one of my adult actors, I was talking to them and they were saying, you know, actors really kind of should be prepared for what we're doing right now, because this is what actors do. You know, we go from job to job and we have all this time in between each job, and we're constantly working on our craft and creating and preparing for that next job. So what Anthony was talking about and the way his outlook is the way every actor should be at this point in time, and it should be the norm for them, in my opinion, if that makes sense.
Joy, I think that's brilliant. And I have to say, I think who we are as artists, so I'll talk about, you know, the very large spectrum of anyone in this industry, or anyone that's an artist, period. They don't even have to be in this industry. Is, you know, are we defined by the gig, or are we an artist outside of the gig too? And I absolutely believe we're an artist 100% of the time. And so that means also giving yourself a break. If you're overwhelmed with this amount of information that's coming in, and like Caroline said so beautifully, need to go take a hike, like that's a great win for the day. You've got to also, I mean, I think artists have to know themselves. I think that's the basis of good artistry, really. And it's very much a Stanislavski concept as well, but really knowing yourself and treating yourself with kindness right now, treating others with kindness right now, and then, you know, taking the time to do what maybe you're compelled to do on a creative level. But I guess I just want to input the fact that, yeah, we're talking about, you know, creating things and what opportunities, but I don't think anyone should ever feel obligated to use this time to have to do something or feel like they should be doing something. I think doing nothing is an art in itself, and being bored is so important. In our kids today, because I have a teenager, don't necessarily know how to be bored. And I was a kid, man, I was bored out of my gourd and had to figure out a solution. And yeah, there's a million things going on right now and so many things you can tune into, but what about just sitting in the living room and thinking for an hour. And I don't know, maybe that's just my own artistry coming out, but I need that. And I need that more than ever right now. And so I'm trying to encourage myself to do that.
Yeah, I think, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, truly, our industry works at such a fast pace, and I can speak, just for the agent side, because everybody has their own position in what they do. But our particular agency, we work the Atlanta market, but we work the Los Angeles market too, and then we're working on LA time as well as East Coast time, and so we're constantly working, and it never stops. And truly, this has been a chance for me personally to just sit back and go, okay, breathe, just breathe, stop, take in what you're doing. And was a point for me where I was going at such a fast pace that I was almost going, do I like the job? Do I like being in this industry? Because I have no personal time. I work 24/7 practically, but at this point, it's given me a chance to sit back and just examine like who I am as an agent and our agency and how we're, what we were doing, how we're going to be moving forward. But also it's given me back the love, for the industry and for what I have done as an agent. It's given me a chance to just stop and breathe and take a moment and go, you know what? I love this industry. I love what I do. And I want to keep doing it. And I want us all to keep doing it, and we will. That's the, I know, with every adversity, you have to take you have to sift through the good, the bad, whatever, and you take, those gems that you learn from it and you go forward, which I think everybody can do. But the one thing that we all have in common is we're all in this together. Everybody's in this together. And that's the one thing that we have in common and moving forward. So.
I love that. Anthony, did you want to add something?
Yeah, just to say that a lot of times, as a lot of you guys out there watching, maybe, I don't want to say struggling actors, you all are actors, but sometimes you define yourself by the gig. And if I don't have the gig and I'm always on the go, kind of piggybacking off of what Erica said, I think I've had my best auditions when I was the most relaxed. I can tell a quick story real quick. A couple years ago, my grandfather passed away and I had to go back to Indianapolis. And before that, I was everything, audition, this, workout, do this. And it was like a routine and it was like a job. I enjoyed it, but there was something that was missing. And then I realized that the man who raised me passed away. And it made me reevaluate what is really important in life. So then when I spent a month in Indianapolis and I came back to Atlanta, I was so relaxed because I wasn't desperate. I was like, there's more to life than just the job. And what's crazy is, my first audition was with you for Vampire Diaries, and I booked it. And I was just like so calm. I'm like, if I get it, I get it. If I don't, it's cool. There's more opportunities, but there's other things that, I'm not defined by the industry. I'm still going to be Anthony Dalton. God forbid if the industry said, nah, we don't want you anymore. And that's what you have to have an outlook on things. And I know everybody wants to grind, hustle. LA is a fast-paced town. New York, especially. Atlanta is fast-paced. And especially when you're in this business, a lot of things are coming at you fast, but you do have to take the time to decompress and just, woosah and just relax. And this is the time to do that. The thing with me is I love what I do. I love being creative. I love watching films. I love every day I wake up and I love working out. I love stuff that stimulates my mind. So it's not a job to me anymore. It's just like kind of what Joy said. It's just what I do. It's in my DNA now.
And to piggyback on you really quickly, because I think detachment, like detaching from outcome, which is like what you said, you're like, I just sort of, I didn't care anymore because something else happened that was more important, my grandfather passing. I think detachment from outcome as humans is what creates really good work. Because if you're in that flow and if you're just concentrating on craft, then there's no expectation. And when there's no expectation, then there is success. And that's redefining that idea of success, I think.
And
Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to.
Oh, you're fine. Fine.
Yeah. And I recently, the way I reframed it, which has really changed, I could say, changed my career, is at the end of last year, I did a reframe of thinking about when I go in and I'm pitching a company or a studio. And for actors, when you're going in the audition, I go in with intent over expectation. And so replacing that expectation with something else, which is just intent, was like the game changer, because it does all those things that you were all talking about.
Exactly. It's familiar, right? It's an objective, an obstacle, and an adjustment. You know, it's actors rehearsal for life, really. And I think as humans, we want to think of possible outcomes, but we can always hope for one, but then we know exactly how to adjust. If we've been in that solid, calm space, we know how to handle those curveballs back to square one, how we started it. And that's so important.
I think this is such a wonderful time for people to really to dive into their play. And what I mean by that is I think we rarely give ourselves the freedom or the space to play, whatever that means, right? I mean, to play, right? I mean, if you watch a really good actor, they're playing, right? I mean, you watch one of my favorite videos is of Jack Nicholson before his scene where he's, axing the door in The Shining. And he's just walking around and he's just like, ugh, and he's got his axe and like the director's like, excuse me, trying to get by. And Nicholson's just like in this, it's like, if that's not playing, right? And he's like, get ready to kill somebody. Well, trying to, anyway. But like this sort of concept of like giving ourselves the freedom and the space to play versus I need to get a job done. I mean, Thomas Edison, right? What was the quote? I never worked a day in my life. It was all fun, or something along those lines. But like, what a great time now to go introspective, right? We call this quarantine. I was reading something. I was like, we call this quarantine, and the Buddhists call this just going inner, right? I mean, this is not a quarantine. This is an opportunity to go inside. And there's people that pay a lot of money, right? There's people that pay a ton of money to go not be able to talk to anyone at a retreat, at like a meditational retreat. Like, you can do this right now. You can go into a room and retreat mentally, right? And kind of check out, check in, whatever. And I do think that's such a good thing though. And like the fact, and this is what's so interesting, you're all saying it, right? You're all saying this thing. And so hopefully actors out there, listen to all these people. They're all telling you the same thing, that go in there and have fun and do this thing that you love, not with the intention of the outcome, but with the intention of the doing and the process. And I think that's just a wonderful way to look at it. This is one that is specific to kids. Do you guys have any advice for kids in the industry right now? I don't know if Joy, you have any sort of thing that they might want to do, or, I mean, I obviously have some ideas, but do you guys have anything for kids who work in the industry right now with something they might be able to do to continue sharpening their craft? I can say they can take things at Catapult. We have wonderful opportunities for them, but anything else?
Well, I mean, I think you let kids be kids. And and if you allow your children to be kids, oh my God, they're so much better on camera that way, because they don't lose the magic of who they are. But as far as what you can do now, you have programs online for kids, so I think that that they should take advantage of that. But this is a time when kids are homeschooled. All kids are being home, schooled at home. So there's a lot of activities that you can do to get your kids outside, to be creative, to not be, in front of an iPhone, iPad, a computer, whatever. it's funny because we're all kind of talking about, you know, how slow our pace is. And I almost made the comment, it sounds like we're all living back in the 1950s or 60s when life was so much slower, you know. But there's a beauty to that, you know, with children, is let them be kids. Find activities for them that allows them to be creative and use their imagination at who they are.
I also think, and maybe this is my own Mary Poppins self, but we have an opportunity to teach and show by example how kids can be helpers, how kids can be vulnerable, how kids can articulate feelings. I mean, there's so much going on right now that to be able to pull someone away from the screen and spend that time with them, not only the wonderful, you know, example of quality time that Anthony gave earlier with his girlfriend, but as a community, we can exemplify to all of our kids what we can do together. And I think we have a really rare opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of kids on, you know, either social media or whatever, that their parents are they're creating things, or they're delivering, you know, things to people who can't get out, or they're doing, they're doing activities that are helping other people in need. And I think that helps them grow as individuals too, that carry them through life.
Yeah, I mean, I know with our little one, they were doing chalk in front of the house. Another fun thing to do too, people have been putting things up in their windows. So like we put up they painted, my daughter and my wife painted a big rainbow, like on a big piece of paper, and we just put it up in our window. So anybody driving by or walking by just sees a rainbow, you know? I mean, anything, I think it's a wonderful time to just get creative too, and to play. And I will say too, you know, if you do want to sharpen your craft right now, there are so many good resources online. I know the Actors on Actors is one that stands out to me. I think that's very interesting to watch. I also like the Hollywood Reporter, the Round Table, the Up Close. That's a fun one to watch. For anybody on Facebook, there's something called In the Moment series. And these guys have just assembled a huge collection of videos of just like scenes / auditions from actors / there's a breakdown of an Anthony Hopkins scene that I find really, really interesting. There's just so much fun stuff out there. Now is a good time to do that too, I think. But yeah, I mean, I think what you guys said earlier is really kind of thinking about who you are. If you're an actor, or a person, and you're kind of trying to figure out who you are, this is a wonderful time to play with that and to think about that. Quick question that was a pretty simple one. This, let's see. Do you have any specific books or authors that you guys recommend, whether it be specifically acting focused or not?
Glennon Doyle, Untamed. It's the best thing I've read in a very long time. She's a mother and she speaks to being a mother. She's a woman and she speaks to being a woman in this world. She's someone who's conditioned a specific way and is untaming herself. And there's actually a quote that I have on my laptop, and it's, "How can collective heartbreak turn into effective action?" And that's in her book. And I think that has to do with right now.
And what's her name?
Glennon Doyle. And she wrote a book called Untamed. She's married to Abby Wambach, the Olympic soccer player.
Oh yeah. Okay, cool. Anyone else?
I always mention this book. Maybe it's getting old to people, but Save the Cat is one of the best screenwriting books. And I think especially for actors, it will help you analyze a script so much if you understand screenwriting from a kind of functional point of view. And I recommend that to always.
Yep. Anyone else?
Oh, this Script Notes podcast, to piggyback on Erica, Script Notes is a podcast They did a really great one recently because, I mean, like I said earlier, I'm having a hard time writing, and they speak to like Damon Lindelof and a lot of these big writers, and everyone's having a hard time right now. It's not just, so I think being able to listen to that communion of voices that are writers, and also it's like grad school for free. So just tune into Script Notes.
Yeah, I from an acting perspective, I always recommend people read Stanford Meisner on acting. It basically just takes you into his class in essence, or like a few of his classes. I think that's just a wonderful book. I think something that made Meisner such a wonderful coach was that he had a really keen ability to express the ideas of acting in a way that is palpable. I think a lot of times this is such a sort of ethereal thing. It's sort of like, go in there and just, be. You're like, okay. And, people are trying to what does that mean? Just be in the moment. Just like be in the moment. You're like, okay, yeah. Okay. And then it's like, what does that mean? And I think Meisner just a really wonderful way of articulating that. And so that's one I always recommend from an acting perspective. I also think Hero's Journey, I think anything Joseph Campbell is really enlightening. A really fun book is called Tools of Titans by a guy named Tim Ferriss. I mentioned his podcast earlier, but he just basically takes all of these high performance people, from athletes to actors to motivational speakers, you name it, and basically it's a culmination of all of their interviews, and it's just a lot of really good perspectives. I think that's one thing that everyone could use more of, or just perspectives. And I think sometimes it's even fun to get perspectives of people you don't agree with. This is a good time to maybe learn something that you've never thought was important to you. I mean, I think that's a great thing to do in this situation.
I have a couple of books that I want. One is called Script Analysis. It's by, what is his name? James Thomas. It's actually free. It's a PDF online. It's pretty good. It's for actors, directors, designers. It has an interesting approach to thinking about how to just get everybody on the same page when it comes to a project. So it gives you a language to do that. And so whether you're an actor, you're a director, you're a designer, it's designed for stage, but it can apply just as well to film as well. But it's a really interesting book. It's called Script Analysis, and by James Thomas, and that's free. What you said about the podcast, Tim Ferriss is very interesting. I wanted to shout out one particular episode, which I think people find particularly useful. It was the conversation he had with Brene Brown, who, if you guys don't know about her, she's very interesting lady who has some stuff to talk about. And I think actors, the message that she's pushing out about embracing your vulnerability is something I think is particularly applicable to people in any profession, but especially in one like ours. And then just for fun, because it's one of my favorite books, I wouldn't exactly call it a light read, but I consider it inspirational. The Autobiography of Malcolm X by Alex Haley is a fantastic book. If you've never read it, you should read it. It's a really good book. And so I just wanted to throw in a couple things in case you need something on your list on things to read during this downtime.
Not related at all to our industry, but Jen Sincero has 2 books. I don't know if I could say this. You're a Badass, and You're a Badass at Finances, or something like that. And they're both really inspiring, especially for women. So I would recommend those. And then a book that's headier, but interesting if you want to dive into something deep, but which is actually appropriate now. It's called Letting Go by Weiss, I think. But
yeah, and I would also tack on anything Eckhart Tolle, Power of Now. I think he really just gives some great perspectives on everything. I think what's interesting about acting books is everybody's got different perspectives. I found the Power of the Actor, the Chubbuck method, interesting. It's not necessarily for everyone, but I think it's an interesting thing if you're an actor. She has developed a method that a lot of people really, really love. So it's, a perspective.
Just to throw something out there, I mean, it's basically Stanislavski that she's repackaged. So it's not bad, but it's always interesting when everyone says, "Oh, it's a new thing." It's it's just said differently. That's the way I'd put it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, I mean, and I think if you look at it, right, I mean, Meisner is obviously Stanislavski because that's, Stella Adler. I mean, all these people just kind of stemmed from Stanislav, which, by the way, another one, An Actor Prepares. If you want to just go right to the source, by Konstantin Stanislavski, which, and you know what, another thing you can do that I found to be just sort of a fun thing, just Google the group theater. Google the group theater and look at I didn't realize there were so many documentaries about them. For those of you who are actors who do not know who the group theater is, I would highly recommend learning about who they are, because by many accounts, it was the best group of actors ever, and maybe ever will be in history. And it's possible, right? I mean, are there ever going to be a collection of actors who were living and breathing it so much? So checking out the...
I would say Steppenwolf too. Check out Steppenwolf. Like that created some prolific actors. So I think that's another theater to check out.
Well, and how many people in this group have done the artist way or tried to do it and didn't have enough time to do it? Now would be the perfect, I never finished, I have 2 copies somehow, but I never could make the time at the time to do it. Now it would be a great project to do the artist way.
Yeah, that's great. Anyone else?
Truth by Susan Batson.
All right, there you go. Okay, so something specific, but this is kind of an intriguing thing because you touched on it a little bit, Caroline. If anybody else has any feedback, and maybe Joy too. I know we actually had a client who came to you recently, and you guys said you should get into voiceover. And so she is. And Caroline, the specific question, what advice would you give to somebody who's looking to get into it, creating a demo? And what also, do you have any recommendations of how to just get into voiceover in general?
Yes. So the first thing I would say is making a demo. I would look at different so I'd start watching commercials because that helps you to understand the voices that are in the commercials. So if there's, for me right now, there's a Cadillac commercial and the woman sounds a lot like me. So I was able to sort of hear that. And then I was able to watch the commercial and change the dialogue in the commercial so it sort of fit me as a person. So I think it's one, being keyed into who you are as a person, which Joy said about being an actor too. It's like not unconditioning who you are, because that's actually what you said that about kids actually, Joy. But I think as humans and adults, we also can't lose ourselves. So I would say 1, be clear on who you are as a person. 2, look to see what brands have voices similar to yours. 3, look and see what brands you actually use. So like Whole Foods is one that I use. So I was able to create a script around that I have in my demo. So that would be my first piece of advice, is finding the brands you connect with and then creating copy around those brands, or just pulling copy from the actual commercial. And then, it helps to have an engineer to create a demo, but if you have to do it in your closet at this time, then just make sure that your closet is packed with clothes, obviously to help insulate sound. Make sure that you have a rug on the ground. Make sure that there's like 2 sweaters right here and you can sort of stick your head in. And then this is my iPhone. I don't speak on this side. I speak on this side because that's where the speaker is. So I just speak here and I do the copy. And then you can send that to your agent if you have one, or you can try to put it together in a demo. I use Twisted Wave, which is free for, I think, the first month. And you can edit it together. And then get a friend who understands how to put music behind it, or if you can figure that out on YouTube, do it yourself. And getting an agent, getting into the agents help me get voiceovers and get me jobs, but I know there's like voiceovers.com. I don't know all the pay to plays, but they're pay to plays. And I guess that's it. That was a lot. Sorry.
No.
But I'm creating a whole blog about this, which will be more helpful, and it will actually we'll talk about corporate narrative, commercial, and also audiobooks, which are really fun.
Yeah, and we can also do a like a lot of podcasts will do show notes, and we'll go through this. What's great is we're recording this as well, so for anybody who wants to watch it again, we're going to make it available to people. So we'll be able to do that. But I think it would be good for us maybe to do a little recap, and we'll reach out to you guys so we can get something typed out.
I have something to the voiceover too.
Yep.
I always say voiceover is like an animal of a different color. It's not everybody can do voiceover. We have great film and television actors, but you put them in a voiceover booth and it's not their forte. Or we have amazing voiceover actors who don't get in front of a camera. There's more to voiceover than just, hey, I think I've got a good voice. Now let me go record a demo. Everything's involved as far as diction and regions and all that stuff. And, Caroline can, elaborate on that. I'm sure you do with your stuff. But for us as an agency, if you want to get into, voiceovers, for us, we're going to direct you straight to somebody who does voiceover coaching. If you don't have a voiceover demo or experience, I should say, we're going to direct you to somebody who does voiceover coaching and puts together a professional voiceover demo before you'll ever hit, our voiceover roster. It's we want to make sure that you are trained, because it's a different style of acting. It's a total different art to me than on camera.
So this is just kind of, we had touched on this a little earlier about when, what's going to happen at the end of this, like people trying to get representation, whatever. But somebody asked, do you think this is a good time to reach out to industry professionals, whether it be casting directors, agents, what have you, like right now during this quarantine time? I don't know. Do any of you guys have any?
I can. Oh, go ahead. You want to go first?
Yeah, I'm going to answer just for me. No. Only because we are all going through sort of the same thing. So personally for me, like it's at least not in these early stages, if this makes sense, between trying to figure out childcare for my son and managing the fact that, I have younger brothers whose college campus is shut down. They're here. You can reach out. That's fine. Just don't expect a response and don't expect necessarily, follow up and in this particular moment. I personally think you should save it. Just be sensitive to the time in general that everyone is trying to sort of adjust to what's going on. But that's only my personal preference, and I think it'll be much better when we open up a little bit later. But for me right now, I'll be honest with you, I'm not going to read your email right now. I'm not going to necessarily address things specifically in this moment. So.
Erica.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I don't know if there was some email or some suggestion to do this on some social media page, but we have a very specific protocol that hopefully everyone understands, that we have a very specific email address. It's info@arvold.com. And that the reason we have that address, if anyone is inquiring about things, is because they get an auto reply full of amazing information. And I don't know what happened, but we were just talking, literally my staff and I were just talking about this. Over the last 2 days, I have gotten more direct to my personal email account, which people shouldn't be having. Like, oh, hey, I'm sure you have so much time on your hands. Would you just give me feedback on my demo reel? Oh, hey, it is making me so frustrated and upset. And I have not responded to anyone because there's not going to be any good, nice words coming out of my mouth. But I just want to say publicly, please respect the normal boundaries. This is not a free-for-all time where all of a sudden everyone is available. And Bajo, you're right. I have so many other things that are going on, as well as obviously developing all of these education classes, that no, I don't have extra time. I'm actually busier at home than maybe I was in terms of like the hours I'm spending doing things. It's just changed. It's different what I'm doing every day. It's different, but it doesn't mean I have gapes of time or holes of time. So that's my personal response. But I find it insulting that someone wants to take advantage of my time. I really take it personally, to be honest. It's maybe that's a way too personal answer, but like, I just feel like, what are you doing?
But that's why we do these panels, right? I mean, to get a personal answer, right? I think if more people were honest about it. Yeah, I mean, I have never been a fan of like sending a bunch of stuff out to a bunch of people. There's a variety of reasons why. Just like I don't think it's an effective way to get an agent to just mass submit to whoever will maybe get a bite. I think, you know, work with good people, get better at acting, and then come to me, and then I'll send your tape to Joy, because I'll go, Joy, you have to see this kid. And then and I think there is, you know, Caroline, you talked about that power, right? I think everybody's like, often with actors, it's like, how do I just want a bite. I just want to get a bite. How do I just get somebody to kind of, and Anthony, what you said earlier, I think is so important. It's like, okay, you could do that, or you could go find creative people. You could sharpen your craft. You could write, you could learn, you could read, you could do these things that you know for sure will make you better. There is not a doubt that if you work your craft and you work with good people and you create and you learn and you absorb, you'll get better. Not only that too, I mean, I think a lot of us on this panel believe that if I am putting this stuff out there and I am coming from this mindset of creative, connected, putting good work out there, things just kind of work out in some sort of way. They seem to just kind of come into place, right? I mean, Anthony, that was like, I really love that. First of all, you opened up about that with your grandfather and just sort of what that did to you, like the human effect of that going then into auditions. I mean, one of the questions that somebody asked was, how do you deal with all these no's? I think it's sort of it's an interesting question. I mean, I think we've kind of touched on it a little bit, but I mean, do you guys have a specific, because obviously we can create and what have you, but the majority of the time you are putting this creation out there. You are not being told it's what someone's looking for. And we touched on the process itself, but I don't know if maybe any of you have some ideas or really any of you of how to just kind of look at that, all of these no's. And also to piggyback on that, if you would have any recommendations for parents whose kids are dealing with the no's.
I would just say, it sounds so cliche, but it really is. You will hear 100 no's before you hear that first yes. One thing that honestly helped me, I saw a story that a talent agent passed on Brad Pitt. He said, I don't see it. And I don't know what that did to me. And it just let me know that something about timing and something about, okay, you might not be ready now or whatever. You just weren't right for the job. There's so many things. And I think everyone on this panel can speak to it. You know, there's a bunch of factors that play into casting. There's a bunch of factors that play into getting a casting agent, or not a casting, talent representation. There's so many factors, and you just have to understand that a no does not mean that you're not good. It doesn't. And it took me some time to realize that. Because we actors, we put in so much. We're the ones, we stay up all night and we may get an audition at, 7 o'clock at night, and we got to put it on tape or be in front of somebody at 9 a.m. And we're just focused. And then all of a sudden you get there and you give your all, and then you hear nothing. And it's like, well, dang, oh, man. But that's something that you have to really love, because there's a lot of people who want to be in this business who are just not built for it. They cannot take those no's. I said this last night when I was going live. I said, the people that make it in this business are the ones who are willing to stand in line the longest, because everybody has a level. You have people who give themselves, I got a 5-year plan. I got a 3-year plan. I got a 3-month plan. And if this doesn't shake, I'm about to be, working a 9 to 5. And what I say to those people is, okay, get out the way. I mean, it sounds very brutal, but get out the way, because you know, I'm willing to, you know, I've taken a lot of no's. Like I've been in this town for 10 years but every opportunity that I've had to be on camera or even be an extra, I loved it. I loved it. And I always knew that I wasn't always going to be an extra forever. I wasn't going to be a stand-in forever. I just wanted to be in the space and learn. And there's a lot of people who just like, yeah, I just want to be in a movie with Denzel Washington tomorrow. And it's like, if you think that, okay. Now, who knows? I'm not God or higher power. It could happen. I don't know. It didn't happen for me, and it didn't happen for a lot of people that I know that are successful in this business. But I just feel that you have to get comfortable with the word no. Because when you, like I forgot who said it about managing expectations. You have to manage your expectations. It's a blessing if you get the call saying you booked. You're excited. That's what we all strive for. But that should not define you as an actor. As soon as you get rid of, I throw my sides away, even when I come to Catapult. After I do my thing, I ball them up, forget about it. I have a printer at home. If I book the job, I can print them out again. And that's just my condition. I had an acting teacher in college who told me, you know what you should do after an audition? Anything else but acting. Go to anything, go to the mall, do something, get it out of your head, because there's some people who really process that and they're like, and it crushes them. It crushes their spirit. Oh man, I didn't get it. And then they become defeated. And it's like, no, it does not mean that you are a horrible actor. It does not mean that you're bad. It's so many factors that play into it. You could be maybe I've got a role, I don't want to say taken, but they didn't cast me. They said, we love your audition, but the woman that you're playing opposite, you all have the same complexion and we're supposed to be love interest, but you guys look like brother and sister. I can't change that. Like, that's out of my control. I can't do anything about that. So it's like, oh, okay. They didn't tell me, you know, oh, you just suck. You're just horrible. No, it's just things that are out of our control. And I think as actors, we have to learn that and be like, you know, back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
Ditto a million times.
Yeah, well, and to add to that from the other side for producers and directors, a no is not a waste. Like Erica, you know, we've worked together on several projects that she's done the casting for, and the number of actors that, like this, on the second film we worked together, we went, oh, remember that one person we loved? We had to tell them no. And they don't know what our conversations, like the hours we spent talking about them or deliberating, you know, can we find another role for them? They don't know that, but they were the first in our mind for the next film. So as a producer and directors, I think know that the more you get out there and you're doing your best work, you are making strides forward. And it's not as black and white as yes and no. So just keep doing the work and know it's just probably setting you up for the next job for that casting director or that company or that studio.
And production sees your growth. You know, these people grow with you. I remember working for Tyler when I got a show called The Pains. I had 6 episodes and he bumped me up to a series regular and he was like, you have really improved. I was like, thank you. He said, yeah, your auditions used to suck. And I'm like, okay. He was like, no, but you have grown. You know, and we've always championed you, but you weren't ready. And then, you know, so many years later, it's just like, you know, and you make relationships with these people, with production. Like that's so spot on when you said a no doesn't mean we don't have you in mind for something else. Raven Drummer, she is like one of the people in this business that champions everybody. I had a friend who told me, man, Raven doesn't like me. I was like, what? Raven likes everybody. He was like, I said, if she keeps bringing you in, then she sees something in you. If someone keeps bringing you in, because if I know, I mean, I've casted maybe a couple of shorts, but if I just don't like somebody, I wouldn't just keep bringing them in and wasting both of our time. So if you keep coming into the room, they see something. Like you said, it's timing, and a no doesn't mean that you guys aren't talking about this person. Like, dang, they're good, but where do we put them in? Where we can't fit them in anywhere. So yeah, that's spot on. I totally agree.
And I'm going to say that, you know, those casting directors, and you guys can elaborate on this, but if we have casting directors that are constantly bringing in actors over and over, but they're not booking yet, that tells me like that is the best piece of feedback other than them booking the job that I can give to an actor if they're constantly being requested. That means they're doing something right. And for me, I'm like, the casting director wants to book you. That's why they keep bringing you in. And so, and plus what you said, Anthony, you know, that Tyler said to you, I think is beautiful, because whatever you gave them, and I have a suspicion that it had to do with your disposition and your personality and your attitude towards your craft, is the reason why they kept giving you chances as you were growing as an actor. And then when you got there, you were shoe in, you know, because of your attitude and how you continue to grow.
Yeah, I love all that. I think that's such a great way. I like what you said. You're willing to stand in line the longest. Like, it's there's obviously a lot of different metaphors you could use for that, right? Are you willing to take the punches? Are you willing to just keep grinding out? And I think there's such a power though too with perspective. I mean, I bring that word up so often, but I tell my actors, you know, it's like, I'll have a new actor I'm working with, and I love to do this. Like, because they're like, a lot of times new actors, yeah, I just really want to, I want to be on a TV show. It's like, okay, cool. Let me just show you a tape real quick. And I'll show them a couple audition tapes from some of the kids I work with. And they'll go, oh my God. I go, see those? Do you see all those? None of them got a call back. And the look on that kid's face after seeing how good that acting was and going, what? And I think that is such a wonderful thing. So you go, okay, look, so if you understand that, realize that there is more to this. There are so many different pieces that need to come into alignment in order to make that thing work. And I would bet this is something that I believe, I might be wrong, but I would bet that a good majority of the time, the best performance does not book the job. And I would imagine maybe you guys could agree with me, Erica, Bajo, like you might see a performance, you're like, whoa, that was so good. But, you know, he looks too much like his love interest. It's going to look like their brother and sister, right? I mean, would you guys agree with that? That often the best performance doesn't necessarily book the job?
Only the best performances are in consideration.
What do you mean?
There's 25 best performances. Like they're unique to them. So I wouldn't qualify the best performance means you're in the mix, maybe, if you're right for the role. So I think we're saying the same thing, but like it is expected that you're going to give a fantastic performance. Then you start choosing. I have a really crazy analogy, and it's my shoe analogy. Do you want me to share my shoe analogy, Erik? If actors are not shoes, I'm saying this right off the bat, absolutely not. It's just an analogy. If you try on a bunch of shoes and a lot of them don't fit exactly right, you like them, but they're not fitting you at this point in time, and they're not right for the event that you're buying the shoe for or whatever, or if you need a running shoe. You probably bought the ones that you really wanted that fit all the parameters while you were shoe shopping. And there might be one other pair of shoes that you were like, that is amazing, but you know, only if I'm going to the Academy Awards would I buy those shoes. So you don't buy them yet, but you know what? You remember those Academy Award shoes, right? A year later, I don't, but who thinks of all those other shoes that you tried on that weren't right? You might even go back to the store and be like, oh, wait, maybe they will fit my feet now. Maybe something will happen. So I know I'm digressing a little bit, but the idea of being right and making an impression and remembering all has to do with, yes, craft, preparation, and being vulnerable and open so that you are castable. Because I'm always finding the character in you. I want to see that character inside you or you inside the character. It's not about, oh, they're a good actor. That's expected. That's literally the starting point. And so I think that, you know, and I'll go, by the way, this is a crazy analogy, sorry, but I'll go find those shoes for the Academy Awards in 3 years when there's a role and I'm like, hold on, those shoes are going to be perfect. And I dig, Bajo, yes, dig and dig and dig to find that person, because for some reason they made this amazing impression. And I think it's all Velcro, right? I have this theory of life that we're all half pieces of Velcro and we're all just looking for other pieces to clamp on to us, you know? And sometimes there's a little corner and it's Velcro for a minute and then we get torn off. But sometimes there are those people, those artists, those actors for projects where that Velcro is just a perfect match. And there you go. And then on to the next. And I don't know, there's my shoe and Velcro analogies for whatever that's worth.
Bajo, you got anything you want to add to that?
There's not much more. Anthony, I think, said it really well, and I think it was it Sara, I think, who talked about the idea of not focusing on the result. I mean, it's hard, especially in the culture that we're in. We're so result oriented, and you often find more success by just paying attention to the journey. And so it's funny to me when I hear actors sometimes who say they don't like auditioning. And I get it, trust me, because it feels like you're always begging for a job. But that's precisely the problem. If you're approaching it as if you're begging for a job, as opposed to, you know, an opportunity to act, an opportunity to offer something to, because we're casting directors, we want to be entertained as well. Like, believe it or not, we're audience members and we're rooting for you. So you got to love that part, that opportunity to offer something to me, as opposed to like saying, oh, can you please give me a job? No, you actually have the power. And I think you need to think about that. You actually have the power to solve my problem. And if you approach it that way, think about it, that you are a potential solution to my problem, as opposed to me having to give you something. You just put yourself in a much better headspace. And so that's one way of handling the no's. Because the best part about, you know, dismissing the no's is like, if you don't get cast, you need to honestly visualize it as, oh, that's my loss. You get what I mean? It's like, because if you did your work, you know, if you know you went out there and you put out your best work, and even if you didn't get it, it may be crushing, but think about it. It just go, oh no, it's okay. It's not you. It's just not maybe the right time, but it's my loss in this moment, not yours. So keep that in mind. Okay.
Yeah.
I had one very small thing about a kid's audition, because this one parent that used to bring, or did bring their kid a lot to auditions, said they never make the audition about the audition. It's always a trip to a store or a time at the park or a picnic, and the audition itself is just a part of the fabric of the day, so that small child did not have these expectations about something. It was just a normal part of their day, like going to the park and then this night, which I thought was so smart.
Yeah, I love it.
Just one last thing. What if you treated every audition like an experiment? Then there's no yes or no. It's just an experiment. It brings out the play. Rick Rubin said that, who's one of my favorite record, like he had an experiment with the Red Hot Chili Peppers and the Dixie Chicks, and like those all turned into hits, but like it was still an experiment first.
Yeah, I think go ahead.
I just want to go back to something so that we don't leave people with a completely wrong impression. I agree 100% with the casting directors and what they were saying about emailing and now being a bad time, because I think that there's a fine line between desperation and determination. That we all, as industry professionals, need to be aware of. But if you're going through the proper protocol, I will say that right now is a great time if you have a project as a writer or that needs to be development, that the development execs actually are very, very focused, and they are looking for products so that when this wraps back up, they are ready to go. So do reach out through the proper channels if you do have a project that should be right for development, because now is the time for those.
Okay. Do you want to say hi? There's a whole bunch of people watching. See, I told you she makes it to every one of my sessions. And there's my other one. Can I see her? So we're coming to the end. So it's a perfect time. I love all of this. It's going to be hard to find. Let's see if I can get you guys to see it. Our little onesie says, "Beats don't kill my vibes." This is Violet, by the way. Violet, can you say hi? Can you say hi? Yeah, there we go. Hi. So one of the perks to quarantine, we get to be with our children, be with our little munchkins. We've come to the end. We've come to the end. I love all of this information. Like I said, we are recording this. Is there any place that people can find you guys if they do want to find you? Anthony, you want to just go first and then...
Sure. You can follow me on Instagram at Anthony_Dalton, the number 1. Facebook, it's the same thing. Twitter also, same thing.
Cool. Caroline?
Sorry. Just go to my website, carolineslaughter.com, and I will have that blog up for you by Monday of next week with all of the information about voiceover.
Love it. Erica?
Social media is Arvold Official, and website is arvold.com.
Sara Elizabeth?
The website is lifeoutloudfilms.com, and also for Instagram and Facebook, it's the same.
Joy?
J Pervis Talent has a Facebook and an Instagram, so you can check us out there.
And Bajo?
Sorry, I'm the terrible one. I have zero social media presence. You can, I need to update my website, but you can find me at OAS Casting, and you can send an email to info@OAS Casting. But I'm sorry, I'm terribly hard to reach. So.
That's okay. That's all right. You know, they got to reach you here. And if they wanted to, we've recorded this so they could watch you over and over. So, yeah, look, you know, I think what I just kind of want to leave with is, I know that there's a lot of people out there right now who are feeling a little lost, feeling a little bit concerned with what lies ahead. But what I can tell you is, from what I've seen, from what I feel in my heart, it's that we are all going to grow. We're going to learn from this. We're going to find new opportunities. I've realized I need to have my kids in my classes more often and find them to be near me. And I just really believe that we as a community hopefully continue to grow from this and learn from this and become an example. And I'm just so grateful to each and every one of you for taking the time to do this. And everyone who participated. One person actually just recently said, your words just filled my heart and gave me hope. So we know one person, their heart is full and they have hope. And that was my goal for this. So thank you all so much. To everyone out there, be safe, be happy, do fun things, get out there and play. And thank you.
Thank you.
Guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye,
Thank you.
guys.
Bye.
See ya.